Hello and welcome back to Tarot with Sahar. Today we're going to continue with the Tarot tutorial, and we're going through the journey of the Fool, which is the story of the Major Arcana cards of the Tarot. Now, if you see the Tarot, if you put the Fool on one side and then arrange the cards in 3 rows, we are dealing with the first row, if you like. So these are 3 different transformations or turning points that we go through in life, or the Fool goes through, so he can end up as the last card with the world as his oyster. The Fool starts at 0, and at the end of the journey he becomes our hero. And what we said is that the Fool represents the Fool within us, the naive person at the beginning of their self-transformation or their life journey. So the Fool represents the person who's going through life journey, and the major cards represents the trials and tribulations that he goes through in order to achieve self-awareness, to become more wise, more knowledgeable, more on track, if you like, of developing the skills and tools that are needed in order not only to fulfill his life destiny, but in order to pass all these tests, if you will, that we go through, or trying tests or trials that we go through in life. It is said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And if you like, in the Major Arcana, you've got 78 pictures. So there's a lot of knowledge there. There is a lot of knowledge, so much so that 700 years ago, people subscribed this knowledge or saw it as a sacred knowledge, and it was called esoteric, because it contained all the information that you need so that you can reflect on this journey. Not a lot of people knew that. The Tarot started as a deck of playing cards. Actually, the minor cards represent the 4 suits of the playing cards, and from 1 to 10, the numbers of the cards from 1 to 10, and then we have the court cards, which are the King, the Queen, the Jack. But in addition, the Tarot added the Page. In my book, Tarot for Self-Transformation, Your Journey to Happiness Mapped Out, that was my concept. Like, you really have a life plan, you've got the map to get to where you want to go, and even if you're not interested in the Tarot, try and see it as a self-development tool that can really help you see life from a different perspective. I hope you have your tea or coffee ready. Mine is this great coffee, because when you reflect on any picture, what's the word I'm looking for? It triggers your intuition, and it helps you to see things from a different perspective. So I hope you'll enjoy today's tutorial. Very quickly, to sum up, we talked about the infinity figure and how to start your intuition by drawing that on a large piece of paper until you manage to get it as close as possible to the line. Now, if you see the Tarot, if you put the Fool on one side and then arrange the cards in 3 rows, we are dealing with the first row, if you like. So these are 3 different transformations or turning points that we go through in life, or the Fool goes through, so he can end up as the last card with the world as his oyster. I've detailed this in my book, but I hope you've been doing your homework, and I hope that you have also been taking notes, your own notes, as you reflect on each card to see how you relate to it. Because you are 30% of the equation, you are the third party, if you like. So one third is the knowledge of the cards, practice, and you, the reader. So it's very important that you relate to the deck that you are using by getting to know the cards one card at a time. So this tutorial is to help trigger your intuition so that you can arrive at the meaning that is also unique to you, as well as what it means in the journey of the Fool. So I say here that phase 1, which is the first row of the previous picture I showed you, represents the making of the hero. So this is the foundation. And very quickly, we said that the colors reflect what's going on also in the tarot. So the red usually represents worldly desires, instincts, and power. White symbolizes spirit. Blue, intuition, as in the High Priestess. Purple, or the shawl that some of the characters in the tarot adorn with, it denotes wisdom. So keep the colors in mind. Roses and lilies represents the glory of abundance. Timing is of the essence in the tarot. That's why you see the different seasons, you know, the harvest, the spring, etc. So timing is very important, but we'll go through that later on. And the magician is the Fool growing up, becoming an adult, which is really important. And then you met, let me zone in a little bit. Then you met his earthly parents, the emperor, the empress. You met his spiritual parents, the High Priestess, the Hierophant or the High Priest. And then we had his first trial, which is the Lover's card. This is, you can notice there's a theme of duality. There is two pillars. There's the balance that he has to keep, being a child, being an adult, male, female, intuition or hidden knowledge. But the Hierophant also starts for apparent wisdom or apparent knowledge. So there is hidden, there is apparent. And then he has to make his own decision as to whom he befriends or whom he has a relationship with. And he's looking up at the angel, she's looking up at the angel, as though he needs the other aspect of himself to help him connect with his intuition or with the divine. The road is not easy, but they need to work together, collaborate together in order to receive this heavenly bliss. So the first lesson is one of love, one of commitment, if you will, one of, it can also be a business decision, any collaboration that involves another party. And for me, looking at this now, it represents, look for the grounds that are common between you and the other person so that you can start building that foundation. So instead of looking for differences, why don't we look for commonalities, common grounds that we can bond with the other person in order to make this collaboration work. Now, after love comes really discipline. For me, this is one of the most mystical cards in the tarot. I mean, absolutely superb, the Chariot. Because, and I wrote here, he has overcome his personal conflict, which is the lovers. Now he has to go to war, if you will, or to overcome another conflict. So the Chariot teaches the Fool that now he has to make a strategic decision. So this, why is it strategic? Because it would have long-term ramifications in terms of the results, the outcome of this decision. Overcoming conflict requires mastering emotions. How do we see that? Because you see only half of the charioteer, the other half, I don't know, should I use a pen? Is it better? I'm a tactile person. I like to touch things and feel them. Anyway, you can see that the bottom half of the charioteer is in almost concrete or stone. So the bottom half, and he's got a bolt and a nut to kind of hold it in place. So the lower chakras, the lower half is instinct, the sexual organs, which trigger our hormones, our emotions. And it's saying you need the mind. We see a lot of stars and crown here, which represent intuition, divine guidance, if you will. So he has to master his mind, control his instincts, achieve balance between black and white, which are the two figures here, which really he's not holding any reins or anything. So the staff here represents his authority. self-mastery. And when we speak of self-mastery, we are really talking about mastering the mind, mastering one's primal instincts, and putting them to service on a higher level, or putting them to service for a higher purpose, which is really the self-mastery, the enlightenment. So whatever guidance you get, although you have to go to a conflict, but your thinking should be strategic, void of emotions, balanced, so that you can cross. You can see a river here. He's almost hovering over the river. And again, that comes with mastery of mind. You can transcend whatever obstacle you have if you manage this mastery, if you seek higher guidance, if you trust your intuition. We know it's intuition because we see the moon, we see the crescents, we see the stars. So on his shoulders, you can see the waning moon, the waxing moon. It's very important. And then there's a lot of codes over his, torso. So the codes, if you like, represent, keep it under wraps. Think with your head, think with your heart. We see the geometric figure of the square. You're going to see triangles, you're going to see circles. So notice these things when you reflect on your own tarot deck. They do have a meaning. I'm not going to go into the whole details because my objective with you is to see how there is nothing strange about the tarot. For me, it was really fascinating that somebody saw the journey of self-development, the problems that we go through in life, and the reason behind these problems is to achieve this kind of mastery, is to learn how to think, how to work with other peoples, is to learn the balance that sometimes we may have people who give us very good earthly advice, but they lack a spiritual dimension. So we almost need mentors or parents, between brackets, who can teach us the spiritual aspect. And if we go up and bring the information down, then the possibilities are infinite, which is why we started with infinity and we keep seeing infinity in different figures in the tarot. So we started with the magician. If you master this, asking for guidance and the skills, and you've got all the elements, so work on yourself, develop the skills and tools that you need and the knowledge to get whatever project you need going, then abundance is infinite and we keep on developing. So back to the Chariot, number 7. Pay attention to the numerology, because the numerology takes its value, or the other way is also true. The tarot reflects the meaning of the geometry, reflects the meaning of the numbers, and it's also reflected geometrically. So 4 is represented by the square, which is the emperor. So this is structure. You need to trust yourself, you need to trust your heart, you need to use your intuition. All of that comes into the structure represented by the emperor, who's sitting solid on his throne. So you will see geometric shapes, you might see little animals, little squiggles. All of it is important, which is really why, again, I love the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So look at the numbers. 7 is very transcendental. It brings spirituality and physicality together, because he has to make a decision in the real world, but he is inspired. And this represents stepping back. Remember, the charioteer is hovering, so we don't know, has he stopped? Is he about to start? Or did he just land? Or are we seeing him in transition during his flight? We don't really know. It's almost like somebody took a selfie or took a picture of the charioteer in mid-journey. So that, for me, implies transcending time. Once you've figured out the wisdom of your situation and you think clearly, you wait for the inspired action, or you ask for it, then whatever way you act needs to be in balance. There is no point in overreacting to something or underreacting, being passive, because you're not going to get the job done. So balance here is very important, and you will see this balance and timing reflected frequently in the tarot. So we can say that 7 is a mystical number, or the number where you can transcend obstacles. It's almost like a time shifter, because once you've figured out, you understood the wisdom, you can shift, you can transcend that obstacle again. So for me, it also represents time. So After that comes justice. So after this conflict, we see the justice card. And as I explained in previous tutorials, I use the number 8 because this was the number that was assigned to it when the Tarot of Marseille was first created, which is the first deck that had instructions, and it was used for divination rather than for entertainment. As I said, the cards really started in China in the 8th century or so, and they were just a tool for passing time, entertainment. Then they swept westwards through India, through Arabia. They reached Egypt, and the Egyptians, at the time it was the civilization of the Fatimid, I believe, they added their own symbolism into the deck, and from there it traveled to Central Europe, reached Italy, which is where I believe the cards got their name. There's a lot of theories, but I couldn't find any proof really. They were developed for aristocracy, whereas before the tarot was a game for the common person to distract himself and play with. But when they reached Central Europe, they didn't want the public to be distracted by having fun. So they limited the tarot to the bourgeoisie, to the upper classes or whatever. And one of the families was the Tarucci family, and they commissioned their own cards. And I believe this is where the tarot came from, the Tarucci family. Later on in the 17th, 18th century, a lot more were added to the cards, but this is not what I found originally in the tarot. Anyway, thanks to the Tarucci family, we now have a system for self-development, for wisdom, that, or at least you can seek inspiration from it. For me, it's just fascinating that somebody sat there and figured all of this out. So Justice card is about balance, is about making decisions. It's truly important, and it's the symbol of law, etc., because every decision has a consequence. So the decision needs to be in balance by weighing out facts and not by being emotional. So in the Chariot, it needed skills and preparation because the charioteer had armor. This conflict needed preparation, strategic thinking. This decision-making process, this is also a decision-making process, but it involves more, again, the facts rather than going by emotions, and understanding that every action has a reaction, which is why very often number 8 is karmic, which is why justice was assigned number 8. This card marks the last stage of the first cycle. Well, actually, the Chariot card. So if I put this back, so the Fool, Magician number 1, which is the beginning of the journey. 2 is the High Priestess, which is the spiritual mom, and so on. And maybe now it makes sense to kind of look at the numbers. Let me grab this piece of paper where I summarized the numbers for you. I'm going to move back a little bit so that you can see the esoteric meanings of numbers. So 1 is the magician, and 1 represents unity. Unity can mean anything you want it to mean, but really it's about bringing all the elements in. Physical abundance, spiritual guidance, skills and tools necessary, and abundant curiosity. Remember the snake, the Ouroboros, which goes back and bites its tail, is about, keep doing it, because that's how we grow, like a spiral. For me, it's kind of like, let me get my marker here. The spiral is very important because you start from here, you keep going up, you repeat, but you're not really repeating the same thing. Your knowledge and also your perspective is growing. So learning is a continuous experience. It never stops. Just because you've reached a certain stage, knowledge doesn't stop. So it's bringing all these elements together. Later on, we'll go into the minor cards, which represents emotions, skills, decision-making, growth, abundance, etc. But 1 is unity. 1 as a number contains all the other numbers in it, because the next number is 2, is basically 1 and 1. So from unity, we go into duality or polarity, dark and night, full moon, new moon, however you want to see it. It also represents cycle, it represents hidden knowledge. The 2 is like the high priestess. When I see a person with their soul number or life path number as a 2, that tells me they're going to keep growing. Their intuition is an important element in their growth, and they should continue with that journey of developing their own intuition. Number 3, the Empress. Let me put the card here just to remind you of our Empress. Represents creativity. For me also it represents Trinity, because it brings all the elements of how knowledge enters our mind. Yeah, so that's the Trinity. It can enter through visual image, visual impression, image. It can enter through the sound. It can enter through learning, ideas and concepts. So in order to keep developing like the spiral, you need to develop in the 3 aspects of how we grow. 4, the Emperor, is stability. Remember the stone structure, the firmness within the impression of the Emperor that he gives us. 5 is about freedom. 5 for me is the rolling stone, because you're so well connected, you know who you are, and that gives you a lot of options. It's also the oracle, freedom of accessing information, if you will. 6 is service. It is service because you have to collaborate. So you're no longer on your own learning like the magician and like the fool. You have to work with others to gain whatever knowledge, to achieve things, to manifest what you want. 7, we explained really fully, is the mystic, really, because it involves a lot of mastery. It involves perspective, seeing things from a different way. And 8 represents the balance. So through these trials and tribulation, the fool reached a certain degree or level of balance. Next time, we will start our journey with the Hermit. So the fool transforms from this happy-go-lucky Joe into the fool, which is really about giving service to others. In a sense, it's impersonal love because I'm sharing my knowledge. The fool holds the lantern to kind of light the way, to allow people to see him so they can come and seek his guidance. Handheld, pocket size, really lovely. And this is where I go into how the numbers and the vibration of the numbers were developed, so that you can work out your life path number. When you do a tarot reading, you can work out the meaning of the number. What does it mean? Of the spread of the answer. What is the most prevalent card, and so on. Again, you see my Rider-Waite-Smith cards. I really love them, and I hope you'll get to try them out if you're not used to them, or if you don't normally use them, and see how you feel. So you'll get to understand the tarot in every possible way. You'll learn about energy and healing, and how energy travels, and how we're all connected, which is why the tarot also works. A lot of people find it funny, like you just pick up a few cards and that's it, your future is there. It's not as, well, it can be as simple as that really, but it's because of energy, because of everything that exists in the universe is quite connected through this vibration. So you tend to resonate around the cards that mean something to you at this point in time. Finally, I want to thank all of you who watched the video. We had incredible views from the last tutorial. Please leave me a comment. Let me know that you're enjoying this. What would you like to see more of? I always go through your comments and they help me to keep going. Take care, bless you, and let's move on with Tarot with Sahar. Oh, and remember, you can look up all my books online. Just search under my name, Sahar Hunaidi Palmer, and you can find any of my 9 books, and you can use them to practice a lot more detail in them. I'll see you next time. Take care for now.